He was riffing on Larry the Cable Guy and somehow landed on Dairy the Podcast Dude. I want Cox to be held personally responsible for both the mustache and the man named Dairy.
Dairy into the world. I don't know about you, but I'm gooving over here.
Yeah, I'm gooving. I am gooving.
Drop the R.
No R in grooving anymore. We are moving and gooving as a podcast now.
Moobin' and goovin'?
We're moving and goobin'. Goobin' is sort of an interesting concept.
Moobin' and goobin'.
Sort of making our way over to Morbius as quickly as we possibly can.
It's Morbin time, right?
It's moving and goobin' time, David. It's good.
It's Morbin and Bourbon time.
This is nothing. This is usually the part of the podcast that we say for the end, where people can just listen to us fall apart. I told you, I'm
too loose already. I'm too loose.
It's a dangerous sort of concoction we're mixing with because I'm back out of the COVID hole and I'm ready to roll.
The COVID hole.
Yeah. I no longer feel like I'm in COVID's thrall. And I'm ready to pod. Groovin', one might say. I'm ready to pod tea.
I mean, I'm drinking wine today, which is, I don't know if I've ever drank wine for this podcast. Maybe I have.
I haven't noticed if you have.
It's a different experience.
Yeah, it's bringing an energy that I'm not sure I've seen before.
It's the sugar.
Yeah, I think that's it. And about an hour and a half, you're gonna be fucking done. Just like, this sucks. I don't like podcasting anymore.
We gotta power through this one because the crash is coming. I am 30. The sugar will destroy me. This is just a fact.
Yeah, it's dangerous with the sauce, and by the sauce I mean sugar.
Yeah,
not the alcohol. That's fine.
Yeah, the alcohol's fine. Whatever. Sugar. Yeah. That's the real killer.
Hello, it's Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase, and fuck COVID. No longer. No more for me. Feeling good.
Did you say my name is Chase and just fuck COVID? Just straight up?
Fuck COVID. All my homies hate COVID.
Yeah, same here. I'm gonna double down on that. Fuck COVID.
Yeah, let's go.
It's made me wear a mask at my job for 2 years straight.
A long time.
Who knows if I'm ever going to take that mask off at this point?
It's possible.
Yeah.
You're really in, like, you're with the people in your job. So, like, it's tough to not want to do it.
I am with the people. This is true.
Yeah.
I'm amongst the masses for my job.
I'm just kind of staring at my computer, and so far as I can tell, I can't give a computer COVID. I have tried, but can't do it.
You probably tried your hardest the last couple weeks.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Hey, David.
Yes.
I love making this podcast. It's so cool. We get to talk about video games. It
sure
cool.
is. It's great.
Have you been playing video games?
I'm still just playing Elden Ring. I'm a dirty boy.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
Dirty.
Yeah.
I can't play anything else.
Yeah. There's no need to shame your yum right now. It's a very good game.
It's interesting because it gives me a very good idea of how much time I spend playing a game any given week.
Because it's all going to Elden Ring.
Right now. And Elden Ring keeps a very exact time for how long you have played.
They make you look at it whenever you save the game.
Every time. I'm just like, oh, God, don't rub my nose in it. Jeez. I think I've put in 75 so far. And I think I've been playing it for about 3 weeks. That's not a crazy amount of time.
No, I feel like that's a pretty respectable clip. Like it's the kind of time.
a day a week spent playing video games.
Yeah.
Sure. I see
respectable.
I see it. But still really great. I'm up in the mountaintops of the giants. Mountains of the giants? I think it's like that.
Something like that.
Mountains of the giants. Something. I'm going to find the flame.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to find the Halig tree as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever that be up there. But it's, I mean, I progress like through the main story, but I'm always sucked back into like doing these odds and end things that I just never got around to in the map. And I'm honestly, I'm so amazed at my ability to remember every area in this map, and not just every area of the map, but like the caves and the tombs and stuff like that. And I know it. I have it all mapped out in my brain.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of space that it's taking up in my brain nowadays.
Yeah,
but it's all in there. I wouldn't even need the map to get from point A to point B if I needed to. It might take me a while, but I could get there.
I think
so it's pretty amazing, honestly.
It's just a testament to like, I think how well designed the world is. Like they've done a lot of work to make it clear like how one area leads into another and like sort of how to go down a main path and split off where you need to. But then also like how in conjunction with a well-designed world, like kind of pulling back the like over iconization of a map.
Sure.
How powerful that can actually be, because like you're forced to engage with the world, which, like I said, it's really good. Like it feels really good to look at and explore. And so it makes sense that if you're constantly digging and scratching at the world, like it makes sense that you would kind of commit that to memory, even without really noticing.
Yeah. No, most definitely. They force you to look at the world and engage with it as opposed to just engaging with your mini map.
Yeah.
Like a lot of open world games do. No shade to that.
No,
but it's just different. It's just different.
It results in different things, right? Like a result of this type is, or a consequence of doing it this way is like you said, you are much more engaged and you have a really good sense of where everything is.
Yeah.
I think you feel more connected to the space in some ways, but also like it probably takes longer, right? Like there's more time in the game spent just like, I guess I'm just going to wander over that direction.
Wandering around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you, it's more of a sense of place.
Yeah.
And a sense of groundedness than in other games where you kind of feel, you know, like you're part of this world, but you're some sort of omnipotent God who knows always where to go.
Yeah.
And the wind guides him wherever he needs to be. Whereas this one's very much, we got a little wisp of grace kind of pointing in the right direction, but just go, you know? We're not going to give it to you the whole way, that's for sure.
It's kind of a suggestion. It's like you asking your dad for directions and him being like, you're going to take a left and then go north. And you're like, no, dude, it's Google Maps or nothing, my man.
Yeah. Head south by southwest and then take a 30-degree right turn to go north by northeast. I don't even know if that's where you'd end up from that turn that I just said, but maybe it could be. You don't know.
It could be.
You don't know.
Maybe it's a circle.
Maybe it's a circle. I've also found myself doing a lot more of the like character-based side quests, NPC side quests in this game. So, you know, spoilers a little bit. Nefeli Lu now is the Lord of Limgrave. Big come up for Nefeli.
Absolutely.
The warrior badass lady. And I'm married to Rani the Witch. It was very confusing. I didn't understand what happened there. She killed some fingers, and then I put a ring on her finger, and she's like, I guess you're my lord now.
Yeah.
Which was felt very patriarchal, but I'm like, okay, sure. I don't know why or how this is happening, but here we are.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think there's more to that story.
I'm sure there's going to be more like at the end, but it was interesting. And I got a cool greatsword. Always a plus.
Okay, then you did get to that part, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I was rolling with that sword for quite some time.
I can't use it. My intelligence isn't high enough. I'm a big himbo.
I had to re-roll it just to use the sword because I really wanted to use it.
Fair enough. Robert Baratheon is all brains and faith right now.
Oh, okay.
Or no, brawn and faith. Sorry. Yeah. He's I don't know, a southerner, I guess.
He's Hammerman.
He's Hammerman. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, he's having a good time. But yeah, just still a great game. I still love all the different biomes that I'm in. Like the new icy mountains are very beautiful, very different than anywhere else I've been, and they just seamlessly blend it all together, which is great. So yeah, still very much enjoying this game. It's a great game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what your game of the year looks like this year, because it's certainly pointing one direction right now.
I think this is the only game that I've played for like a month straight now.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah. So I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give anything away, but this is a pretty good game. It's a pretty good game. But there are so many things on my backlog now that I have to play. But, you know, I do my game of the year differently than you do. It's any game that I play this year.
Yes, that is true.
So I could dip back into some old classics. You never know with me. I'm a wild card.
What's fucked up is I think that Elden Ring probably could go toe to toe with like most of the games that you could find to play.
Absolutely.
You know, like it could still end up being number one if you're like, this year I played Mario 64, Mario Odyssey, every good Assassin's Creed game or something, like every
Breath of the Wild,
every incredible indie title, and like it's still Elden Ring.
I haven't been this engrossed by a game in quite some time. I feel like From Software games demand a solo playthrough, as in like I'm not dipping my toes into other games while I'm playing them.
Yeah.
There's something about them they demand more of you.
Yeah.
So it almost feels strangely like disrespectful if I play a different game when I'm playing a FromSoft game.
Yeah.
It's weird, but that's the feeling that creeps up right now when I talk about this, which I think I need to analyze a little bit more before I continue talking about, because it's very strange that I'm saying this right now, honestly, then I think about it.
You're like, I don't want to
this needs more introspection. I don't want Miyazaki to bust down my door and be like, oh, what the fuck, bro? I thought we had something going on here.
I thought you were playing Elden Ring and only Elden Ring.
I thought I was your only one, baby. So yeah, it's strange. It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still just been Elden Ring. That's it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good video game.
It's a very good game. What about you, Chase? What have you been playing?
Let's see. So I've sort of come down from my significant amount of playing video games while I had COVID.
Sure. Back to the real world.
Back to the real world a little bit, and just like my brain is able to focus on one thing for a little while and like just do one game at a time. So I've got 3 for you this week.
Oh, cool.
So the first one, I am still continuing to play Hardspace Shipbreaker. I was playing that before we started podcasting.
Looks fun.
Had to finish up a ship. Yeah, it is good. I'm still really enjoying it. This is the, for anybody who didn't listen last week, this is the game that's fairly recent, came out fairly recently, where you are working for this like company, and one of the things that they do is employ people to break down ships on this like satellite around Earth. And so you like wake up and it's a first person game. You go into null gravity and go and just like take these ships apart like piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mechanical half of the game, and the narrative half of the game, which is really what has me sticking around, is this arc about like the company just treating you like shit in a way that is both absurd and ridiculous and also totally believable.
Mm-hmm.
It is similar to how Portal is just like ridiculous in the way that it like treats the people who are running through the test chambers.
Sure.
But it's a little bit less wild. It's like not that far on the scale of Portal, but like in the same way that, you know, when you wake up, Lynx always reminds you to give it 110% because the last 10% of the job is the hardest part, and like all that sort of shit, you know. It's intentionally confusing, right? Like what the fuck is that?
Yeah, what is that? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
So I need to give 20% to finish the last 10% is what they're saying.
I think the quote is, the last 10% of a job takes as much time as the first 90%, which is why it's always so important to give 110%. It's like it's nonsense.
Just terrible corporate speak.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's corporate speak. And so like, I think up to the point that I was playing it last week, I was just starting to get into this part of the narrative where one of your coworkers is kicking around the idea of like, hey, I think we should, you know, start joining a union and like forming a union with the other workers that are here. And I've been playing a lot still. So like that has continued to be the case. It has gotten wild, essentially. And I don't want to give too much away in case somebody does play this. So like, you know, maybe skip to the next chapter if you're that worried about it. But there's probably about like, I don't know, 20% of the game, there's a like kind of middle manager dude. I think his name is Hal, who shows up, and he is there to make sure, like, check out to see if there's any union activity, and also to kind of like audit the station that you're working with, to make sure, like, you know, nobody's not working hard enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is like shockingly accurate how well they've portrayed middle management. Like this dude is
Chase
just
talking as someone who has had ample experience with middle management at this point in his career.
It's I was just about to say, like, I have literally had this boss. Like, there's so many things that this dude has said that I'm like, geez, that is like verbatim shit that I have heard.
Like what?
There's a lot of repeating like leadership principles as a way to kind of just be an asshole. And one of the things that this dude talks about is like, you know, it links we have this thing called disagree and commit. And I don't see you doing a lot of committing after we've disagreed and shit like that. Like that is literally an Amazon.
Mean?
It's nothing, right?
It's
like
anything.
It is. However, though, it is literally an Amazon leadership principle is disagree and commit. And so like,
really,
it's on their fucking website.
That's funny.
And so like, I don't think it's being underly obvious what they're doing there, but like, it's genuinely, it was pretty effective when I heard that. I was like, oh geez, like, somebody has worked at like a big company before and had this sort of stuff used against them, right? Because it's nonsense. Like, they intentionally sort of have him say it in a way where it's clear that he doesn't understand what that actually means. He's just using it as a bludgeon to sort of like discipline people, right?
Reminds me of Silicon Valley. Did you watch that show?
Yeah, no,
the
it's
conjoined triangles of success.
Yes, it's very much like that. Where like none of this makes any sense. There's nothing going on here, and so like that was pretty incredible. Not to mention another thing that's very familiar is like at a certain point the like morale between the teams is pretty low. Even your like direct manager, this dude named Weaver, who like he's been pretty good to you as like your manager. Like he's pretty compassionate and like never really gotten too like weirded out, has been very defensive of them pushing for work that is more dangerous than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they've sort of broken a lot of that. And at some point you start one of the days and like nobody chimes in on the communication system.
Mm-hmm.
And
nobody's chatting on Slack.
Yeah, nobody's chatting on Slack. And the like middle management guy comes on. He's like, "Oh, we're awfully quiet today. What's going on, everybody? Where's our normal cheer?" And I swear to God, I've heard that exact line before from the people who do the same sort of thing, the same sort of like instilling a certain amount of fear about saying literally anything because these guys will jump down your throat for nothing. And so like you just learn to like not talk up. And then they're like, "Why isn't anybody talking? Everybody loves their job." It's just it's so they've nailed that sense of like this dude feeling just terrible to be around.
Is this helping you process some trauma, Chase?
Legitimately possible. Like
it sounds like you were really resonating with a lot of this right now.
I think like just being in that situation is such a bummer. Like just working in these like terrible places that are like so affected by like the capitalist structure that we have that like it can just be kind of painful to exist in those places unless you have people who are like human beings and like willing to be human beings around each other.
Sure.
And so like that, I had mentioned this to you when I was playing it. I was really worried that they were not going to do anything with the story, that was kind of going to be the end.
Yeah.
Because like I had gotten that beat of the story and was like, not very many people were talking to each other. And I was like, shit, like, is this just it?
Is that because that's where it ended for you in real life, Chase?
I mean, possibly. I think that's how it ends for a lot of people. Like you just kind of either choose to exist in the system or like at a job that you don't like, or you go find something different. Chosen the latter. And so like I was really worried that that's what was going to happen here, but I literally just watched a cutscene with you where they are doing something else, and it's like clear that like, okay, no, they are actually gonna maybe give you a little bit of hope in the system. It's not just Monopoly the game where it's intended to be like a criticism of the system by putting you in the position of having to exist within it.
Doesn't this suck?
Yeah. I was really worried you're going to have to like pay off your whole debt by just like playing the game straight through and then get to the end and it's like you died of old age or something
Space
like that.
Joe Biden's going to come out of nowhere and be like, "I'm thinking about it."
Brutal. So anyway, I'm still really enjoying this game. I think it's like hitting in a way that it is certainly specific to me, but I think anybody who's worked like this kind of job where there is like terrible people trying to do terrible things to other people, like in service of making the money or the company money, will get it. Or just like, I feel like everybody has had an experience of like just feeling like a shitty job, right? Like feeling like you were in a job that like doesn't give a shit. It's not there for you. You were there for it and like just there to make it money. So like, it's not hard to be in that position.
Unfortunately, it's a universal experience for people living in a capitalist society, right?
Yeah. So I think it's
a cog in the machine.
I think it's a great game, and I think it's like saying something very, very cool.
Cool.
On a very bizarre shift, I've also been playing this game called Gas Station Simulator.
Fascinating shift.
Yeah.
You want to be your own boss, huh?
I know, yeah. I want to go start my own gas station after working in space. This game is really weird. It's much closer to like the traditional quote unquote simulator game. I'll just go through how the game starts, right? So you start and like you come into a gas station, come into owning a gas station, and you have to like start buying gas and serving customers who pull up and they're like, "Hey, I would like some gas," and then you do a little mini game and fill up their tank to whatever level they want, and then
so this is in Oregon.
Weirdly enough, yes, it's like you have to go service the car kind of gas station.
Yeah.
So it's very bizarre in that way, but you do that for a little while, you make some more money, and like you're eventually able to like unlock other shit, right? So like now you can sell chips or drinks in your gas station or whatever, and
beautiful.
You go do it. Yeah. It's very weird going back and forth between these games because this game has nothing to say about capitalism, and like the Hardspace like really does. And so it's very bizarre to like go from a game that's like really punching pretty hard on like this system sucks, and then you go right over to just like ringing up someone's like soda than just like taking in the money.
Just gotta be a small business owner. That's the trick.
That's
that's all they're saying.
The solution. And anyway, so it's interesting. Like, it is very ding boy of me to enjoy this game. Like, it is just it is pure ding to like have to own a gas station, maintain it, paint the walls, make sure that you're making enough money, unlock more shit so that you can make a better gas station, so that you can have more gas pumps, and like eventually open the car replacement, the like auto shop part of the gas station where you can like change
replacement shop.
I know I fucked that one up. The auto shop.
Mechanic.
Yes, the mechanic. And so like that's all very fun. These kinds of games, and I played a similar kind of game to this. I played House Flipper, which is like kind of another simulator game a while back.
Property Bros simulator?
Pretty much. Like, you just have to like go into a house, and like it's really not very it's not a very technical game. And I think this one is really similar. So like let me give you an example of what I mean. In this game, to be a mechanic, it is like wildly simple to do that. Like, somebody will pull in and they're like, hey, my tires are broken or something, and so you have to replace the tires. The way that you do that is just click the tire and then like click the little like bolts that go into the tire to take it off, and then you put it back on and click the little bolts again. Mm-hmm. It's like not a very difficult game at all. And like House Flipper was kind of like that in the same way, that like to clean something, you sort of just like go over and press your button and wait, and then it cleans it. Or like to install a shower head, it's like you just sort of like click the little like highlighted bits of the screen rather than like having to really like know how to do any of that.
Yeah.
And so like it is a very low friction game. And so for me specifically, I feel like it is pretty fun to play for a little while, but it feels very much like junk food kind of. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing a lot when I'm playing the game.
You want the farming simulator version of Gas Station Simulator?
I think so, or at least Hardspace Shipbreaker. Like, a couple of days ago, I was like, I feel like I'm not good enough at Hardspace right now, and so like kind of took a step back and was like, I keep failing in very specific situations where like I'll accidentally blow up the reactor. I'll, cut into something that has like a gas line in it and blow up the ship or something. And so like had to kind of like conceptualize, what am I doing wrong? And then how can I do better at that? And then did do better at that, and was like, I just got better at something. Like, my brain just understood the game a little bit better and was able to increase my skill. Whereas these games are like, just click the button. And I think that's okay. Like, I don't necessarily think that's like worse or whatever, but I think after playing Gas Station Simulator for like, I think I played it for like 8 hours or something like that. Not all at once, Jesus. But like
8 hours straight.
But I think I came away from it like a lot less satisfied than I think I would have liked to. And I think that weirdly enough comes down to like games friction in a certain sense.
Sure.
And like, it's such a hard line to toe, because like, I think too much friction and the game is just like frustrating and hard, right? And like, it doesn't make any sense why things are very difficult. But too little friction, and it kind of starts to lose a little bit of the meaning, which is bizarre.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have necessarily expected that to be the case. And like, I think this conversation sometimes gets brought up in like difficulty conversations, and I think those are kind of different. How hard a game is doesn't necessarily equate to how much friction I think there is in a game. I think like Elden Ring and a lot of the FromSoft games are pretty difficult games. Like, whether or not you think they're fair, which I think they are, but like they're hard games. They demand a lot of you. But oftentimes I feel like the friction isn't particularly wild in those games. It's kind of middle of the road, right? Like, if you die on a boss, like, it is frustrating in a lot of the other FromSoft games to go run back to the boss, but you can kind of get that under your belt pretty quick.
Sure.
And like there is friction in having to go like run to go get your souls or whatever, or like levels and shit like that. Like, you can't just one shot anybody. You kind of have to like get better in your own sort of experience of the game, and then like level yourself up too. But I don't think friction is necessarily the thing I would describe about that game. I think it's hard, but not like friction.
So friction is like quality of life adjustments, where it's more like the structure of the game. That's not the gameplay necessarily.
Yeah, I think it is like how difficult something is. When I think about friction, I think I usually think about how quickly I can get something done, and if I'm able to make a change in that pace at all.
Sure.
Like in Hardspace, the friction sort of comes from the fact that like you may not know exactly how a ship is laid out, and you kind of have to like solve this puzzle in your own mind to figure out how to pull the ship apart. And so a lot of it's going on in your own head, and as you do it more, you get better at that. And so like eventually you're able to kind of like increase your clip of how quickly you're pulling these ships apart. And so the friction is like the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Like trying to figure it out in your own head. Or something like Animal Crossing is also sort of a weird like edge case for this too, where Animal Crossing has a lot of friction. Like if you want to move someone's house to just like a square over, right? That is an incredibly hard thing to do in Animal Crossing compared to like a lot of other games. You have to like, save up enough money. You have to go talk to Isabel to tell them like, hey, I need you to move your house. They have to do that. You have to wait a whole day just to like for it to actually happen.
Sure.
And so like there's a lot of friction points in there where it's just kind of slowing the process down a little bit.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. And so like I think that sometimes that can lead to this sense of like accomplishment of like, holy shit, I got through a lot of that. Right. When you see a really incredible Animal Crossing island, I think it is in no small part due to the fact that like how much effort that took.
Sure.
Like it took a long fucking time to get it that right. Whereas like you could just go design like an incredible city and like city skylines, and that is really cool. But it's not as hard as it is in a lot of other games. And so you kind of know, what that actually takes.
As hard or as friction-y?
As friction-y, right? Like it took a while to get there. Because like Animal Crossing isn't hard per se. You go around catching bugs, right? Like that's a pretty easy thing to do. You can kind of just do it. It's not a hard part of the game. But the friction in the game comes from a lot of like the time sink aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Anyway, Point being, I think that the gas station simulator part of this is it's not very frictionful. And so it's not particularly difficult either. And so like the sense of it that I get at the end of it is like, I'm getting a lot of ding boy points by seeing the numbers go up, but it sort of feels hollow at the end of it.
Did I earn these? Do I deserve these dings?
Did I earn the ding or didn't I?
A ding means nothing if it's not earned.
I think so. I think that's the subtitle of my experience with this game. Because
whether it's just for the time sink aspect or the difficulty aspect, you have to have one of those to make it feel
something
worthy of a ding, of the sweet release of those neurotransmitters.
Yes, yeah. So it was a really bizarre situation playing this. I still think it's a fun game, and like if you're looking for a game that doesn't require a lot of like twitchy motion or like you don't have to like be headshotting anybody's Nissan Versa or something like that. You can just play the game.
You're not an MLG gamer with a capital G.
No. And so like it's good for that part of it. And if you're into that, I think that's a pretty cool thing. But I found myself at the end of it just feeling like, should I have played something else just now? Like maybe I need to like maybe look at a different space for something to play.
That's how I felt somewhat about Spyro when we played that recently.
Yeah.
Or like some other games where it's just like maybe somewhat some of the Spider-Man games where I'm just really playing through to see the story. Like the story is very engaging, but it's not difficult, and it's not necessarily pushing me. So it's like, what am I doing here? So I see what you're saying, and I like that you differentiate between friction and difficulty, because friction is how long it just takes to do something in a game that the game determines, whereas difficulty is something that scales with skill.
And I think that it can, like, friction can scale, and I bet that there is probably more stuff that creates friction off the top of my head. Like I for whatever reason, I'm only thinking of time, but I bet there's other shit, right? Like I bet you could qualify grinding as like a friction point.
Sure.
Which honestly is still a time thing. So I don't know.
I was about to say that is still just, it's time sink.
Yeah.
It's a time sink of how much of just getting better. Yeah. Right. It's the game kind of controlling, gatekeeping
a little bit,
a certain aspect of the gameplay. Yeah, you can't speed it up; you just have to do it.
And like you were saying, I think I'm usually okay with this if there is some kind of story, like if there's something being told there. And it's usually why, like, frankly, if like there is a story that I'm really enjoying, I will just kick the difficulty down to nothing. Like, I don't need this to be hard. I don't need it to be hard or like to feel accomplished. Like if you're telling me something that I think is really cool, or, nominally entertaining, I will just be like, yeah, it's fine. Let's play through this.
Yeah.
But Gas Station Simulator really does not have story to be spoken of. It's kind of just like your uncle owned a gas station, and now he's going to give it to you. Okay.
Why not?
So why not? Anyway, it's interesting still. It's worth like a look if that sounds interesting to you at all. But potentially be prepared to have not very much friction in the game.
This is an AP physics problem right now. A frictionless environment.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it certainly felt like I was trying to define some sort of like taxonomy that would be required.
Where's Mr. Baker? Where are you?
The last game that I've been playing this week, David, is Dragon Quest VIII for the PlayStation 2.
Whoa. For the PS2?
Yes. For the PlayStation 2.
How are you playing this one? Is that an emulator?
That is, maybe. I'm playing it on the Steam Deck. You read between the lines. You connect the dots.
Sorry, I said the E word. Chase owns this game. I can attest to this.
I did.
Yeah, you played this game. I remember you were big into Dragon Quest.
It's bizarre because I must not have played very much of it because I'm playing through it now and I'm like, how much of this did I even play? Because like I'm seeing shit that I'm like, I don't remember this story beat at all. So a little bit of background. I didn't really play a lot of the Dragon Quest growing up. I think this one was the first exposure I had to the series, and then I didn't really touch the series other than playing Dragon Quest Builders 2 a couple of years ago and loving it. I thought Dragon Quest Builders 2 was like a really good game.
Wasn't
I was
that
like very
Minecraft,
surprised.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of Minecraft-y. Like it is if Minecraft had a campaign and it was really good. It's good as fuck. I still really like Minecraft or Dragon Quest Builders. And then I also tried playing Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. Probably a year or two ago. I listened quite a bit to the podcast Into the Aether, another good video game podcast, and they're like hugely, deeply into Dragon Quest XI. And I played it probably about the time that I was listening to their like episodes about it, and I thought it was interesting, but like it kind of lost me at a certain point. The game, I sort of bounced off of it, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that it felt like the story was just kind of like meandering at a certain point.
And
I think that
JRPG issue in my experience.
I was just about to say that like I feel like I see that a lot in JRPGs. I honestly think it may have been a mistake on my part, assuming that it was unintentionally meandering. Like sometimes I will, and of course everybody does something intentionally in games, but like I think a lot of times my experience with some JRPGs is that like it can feel bloated in a certain way that like I don't necessarily need. I think that's why Persona felt so different in that like very little of it felt bloated. It was a very long game, but like it felt significant to be doing anything in that game. And so I loved it for that. But I think I was just kind of approaching it from the wrong way. And I'll tell you why in a second. But like essentially Dragon Quest VIII has sort of reversed a lot of that for me just because I think I am playing this game in the way that it wants to be played. And I think it makes that way a lot more obvious in this game. So to explain like what the game is a little bit, if somebody hasn't played it, Dragon Quest VIII is like this, it's the 8th version of a very old JRPG series. Like Dragon Quest has been around for fucking ever.
A long time, yeah.
And I'd say it's probably like in the category of kind of classic game series, right? Like it's a huge game series. Like it's wildly successful and wildly popular. That's a big deal.
Slimes are a thing, man.
And I think historically I've sort of skewed towards the Final Fantasy approach to JRPGs in that like those ones are a little bit more navel gazy. Like they're kind of like
a little bit more vibey, as I think we would say on this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, like they've got a little bit of a vibe. They're oftentimes a little bit sadder, which I kind of appreciate. Like like Titus doing a monologue in Final Fantasy X and him being just like sad about it. It's like that kind of speaks to me in a certain way.
Yeah, there's a lot of sad boys and girls in Final Fantasy games.
And in very stark contrast, I think Dragon Quest is like almost the antithesis of that. Like it is so bright and happy,
cheery.
Cheery, yeah. Like it's very cheery in a way that like I think I had to be in the right headspace to like accept that because I've mostly just been playing Final Fantasy games, you know, for however long they've been out, however long I've been able to read essentially.
Yeah.
And so like it's kind of a mental shift to go from I want this or I expect this world to have some kind of like twists and turns in it. And I suspect that Dragon Quest VIII will, but I think this one is also communicating a tone that just happens to be one that I'm not super familiar with. I'm not used to experiencing it.
That's so sad when you say that.
I know. And like,
it's like, I'm not familiar with this happy, cheerful vibe. What is this? This is too foreign to me. Where's my Kingdom Hearts? Where's my Final Fantasy sad on Wii? Where it at?
I think it's just, it's generally a lot easier to communicate a melancholy vibe. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I haven't fucking made a Kingdom Hearts game. Maybe it's hard as fuck to do that. But I think it is really interesting that they're able to communicate this like tone of it being like pretty nice in this world. Whenever I've been playing this, it very much feels like escape whenever I'm doing it.
Sure.
And like the music is always like just incredible and makes you feel really nice. It's like always kind of swelling to this like heroic moment. It sounds incredible, by the way, for PlayStation 2 music. I was like, damn, this sounds really, really good. And then so I think when I was playing through 11 and why I'm enjoying 8 now is just I don't think I was used to that. And I thought that they were maybe doing that not as an accident, but just like not in the most intentional way possible. But I think stripping away a lot of this generation, the next gen of Dragon Quest away,
sure,
letting me see just like, what does this series do without, total wild, crazy graphical fidelity?
I want to
like,
see the real Dragon Quest.
A little bit. Yeah. And so like, it's interesting to see like what is still here this far back. And like, obviously there's, Dragon Quests that are older than this, but like, I think this one is a good representation thus far in my experience of the series of like what the game had here and what it would go on to do in 11. Yeah, you can see the connective tissue. And I think like it's really interesting to be able to just like exist in this space. It's really nice. Like the characters are all really fun and like funny, right? Like your main other person that you're rolling around with, Yangus.
Stop. Yangus?
Yangus.
Yangus?
Yangus.
Yangus.
Love that. I really love.
Is he Australian?
He's like Cockney British.
Oh, even better. Yangus. Wow.
Yangus feels like a character that video game Podtimism like said at some point. Like we were like riffing off of Dingus and we got to Yangus somehow.
Yeah, no, most definitely. My goodness, Yangus?
Yangus.
Ooh. That is a strong name. Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
We love names here on this podcast.
It is true. Yeah, no, it's fun. Yangus is a powerful word. Yangus. And he's also a powerful companion. I love Yangus.
Keep saying it.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It does.
You're in the actual story, you're traveling around with this like king who supposedly got like transformed into this like goblin looking dude, and his daughter got turned into a horse, and so like she's there as well.
I don't know why that's funny, like, but that's fucking funny for some reason.
That's the thing, is like it's very like almost comical. Like if you really look at it, it's like, it's kind of tragic, but like at the same time, like he's never really that down in the dumps. He's like, no, like I'm the rightful king. I'm the king, and like we're gonna go turn me back into my normal form.
I just got turned into a goblin. My daughter's a horse. We'll get through this. It's beautiful.
The voice acting is really incredible for all these characters too. Like the goblin dude, King Trode. His character's always like just incredible. Like he's got this like very ridiculous accent and is like just absurd at a lot of places. And so as a result, like most of the story beats are wrapped in this sort of like chipper tone, just based on like the wild characters that are inhabiting it.
Sure.
And so like there is a story, right? Like you're getting little bits and pieces of it at a time, but it's not the sort of like typical exposition dump that I think you find in a lot of like the first couple hours of a JRPG. It really just dumps you in there and it's like, this is your character. Here's the thing that you're trying to do overall. And like, here's the town that you're in, go. And so your very first quest is like the townspeople freak out that King Trode is like there. They're like, what the fuck is this monster? And so they like make him sleep outside of town. And one of the townspeople, you're like trying to find this character named Dual Magus.
My goodness.
Who supposedly turned the king into this little goblin. So
Dual Magus?
Dual Magus.
Wow.
And you're trying to find them, and so you're asking around town, like, hey, does anybody know where I can find this? And eventually you run into a fortune teller. He's like, fuck off, I don't want to talk to you. And his like daughter is like, hey, like my dad used to be like a really good fortune teller, but he lost his crystal ball. There's like a cave east of here. If you go there and get the crystal ball, like he might be able to help you. You might be able to find where Dual Magus went. And like that's your intro to the quest. Like there's you kind of know the stakes, but like that's really it. Is like just go get the crystal ball from the cave. Like perfect. And so like it starts to feel kind of like a like a myth or like a legend at a certain point.
Sure.
Like Robin Hood or something, right? Where the individual beats are very small scale. Like the things that are happening are not these like world ending things. I think about like how intense Tales of Arise was last year and how the like story beats were oftentimes just like nuts, which was good. But I really like that this game is like kind of reserved in a sense. It's like, no, we're telling like a legend. And the first part of the legend is that you have to go get a crystal ball from a cave. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's really good. And so viewing it in that way has allowed me to enjoy this game a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm sort of just letting the pace of the game do whatever it needs to do. Like, yeah, I'll play this game at your pace. That's fine. Like, I'll just play like an hour at a time. Like, each of the story beats kind of feels like an episode of a show or something like that I can kind of just like go through. And it feels great. And it's also, not to mention like the actual mechanics of the game are very fun. They're very classic. Like, it's very straight down the middle, like JRPG sort of stuff. You've got levels, you got some skills that you can level up. It's not particularly complicated, but like, it's also quite difficult. So you do have to kind of like grind a little bit, which isn't the worst thing. Like I kind of like doing that. It's fun. I like leveling up and then going and kicking somebody's ass.
Some
like,
good friction.
Yeah, it's good friction, right? Like it makes the victories feel significant. When you do get them, rather than like, I don't like the friction in some JRPGs where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do right now?
Yeah, that always feels bad.
It never feels good. Whereas like, I oftentimes know exactly what I need to do in this game. It's just a question of like, am I strong enough to do it? Do I have the right stuff? Am I approaching this correctly?
Do I have the right stuff?
Do I got the right stuff though?
Do I got Bugs' secret stuff?
And the answer is no. But I will go beat up slimes in the outdoor area until I'm strong enough.
Hey, it's just water. It was just water the whole time.
I also love that, like, I've mentioned this before. I like the kind of scarce economy that they have in this game, where the weapons are kind of expensive and you kind of do have to splurge if you want to upgrade. I think I talked about this with Eichenfell, where like I liked the damage numbers were kind of low.
Yeah.
Like doing 3 damage and then suddenly doing 5 damage was like, holy shit, that was a big jump.
That's a big jump. 60% right there. 66. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I like when it's like, I could buy a new axe, but that's like 90% of the money I have. So like, am I really going to do that? Am I going to try and make battle easier for myself?
Is it a good axe?
It usually is the thing.
There you go.
So yeah, it's interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really glad that I got at this one, because I was kind of convinced that like Dragon Quest was not necessarily for me. That after playing 11, I was like, maybe like, and hearing people just like be in love with it, I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily the series that I like. Maybe I'm just like a Final Fantasy dude. But I don't think that's true. I think it's just like a tone shift, and I have to kind of adjust where my head is at when I'm playing these to really like get what they're doing. So yeah, it's a good video game. It's also like, it's constantly on people's like, this is one of the best JRPGs of all time. So like, okay, yeah. It's not surprising that it's not surprising that I'm enjoying this, because like, yes, of course.
Is it going to be on PlayStation's Game Pass alternative? Do you know?
God, I really hope it is, because I don't know of a really good way to play this other than, bringing out your Steam Deck or your original PlayStation 2. I know that there is a version of it for the 3DS, like they put it out on the 3DS. But I know that there are also some differences in the versioning there. Like, I think it's a little bit different than like the PlayStation 2 version. It's good. It's a good video game. I'm really loving it. Whenever I see it like on my Steam Deck, I'm like, I want to play that. That looks pretty good.
I think I got to give one of these games a shot. Because I played a demo of the most recent one that came out. Was that 11 or 12?
That was 11. Yeah, 12 isn't out quite yet.
And it was fun. My one trepidation always with these games is that I never finish them. I don't think I've ever finished a single JRPG besides Kingdom Hearts. I guess you could call Kingdom Hearts a JRPG. Yeah. But no Final Fantasies, nothing like that. They're just they like you said, they meander at some point, and I just kind of lose interest. So maybe I just have to stick through it. Maybe I just have to suck it up and just do it.
Yeah, it is interesting. I agree that like there's oftentimes a point where like there has just been so much story that I'm not necessarily motivated to continue playing it.
Yeah.
And especially when a game kind of relies, like I think JRPGs do, when they rely a lot on tone and like the vibe of the game. And it's not a bad thing. I think it leads to games where like it feels really good to exist in that space, right? Like this Dragon Quest game is really nice because it feels good to be there, but it also comes with the consequence of like, if you're just throwing like nonsense story at me, it either needs to like feel like it is leading to something, or like I should be able to like enjoy those specific bits on their own.
Yeah.
But yeah, oftentimes it's happened with Tales of Arise too. I'm like, there's just so much fucking story in this video game. It goes on and on and on. That'd be Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger's pretty good. It's a pretty good JRPG, but also very concise. Not a very long video game.
Sure.
Anyway, David, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Yeah. What is it?
It is person joined your party, and then a song plays about that. I love it in any RPG or video game where they're like, hey, this person that's kind of cool that we introduced, they're like part of your crew now. Really, really love that. Got to Dragon Quest VIII, and Jessica just joined my party, and I was like, thank God.
Jess.
Yep.
Perfect.
It was great because I was like, I could use another person. Jessica seems like a cool person to be in my team. Like, very happy about this.
What's her class? Does she complement what you have so far?
I think so. Yeah. I've got the main hero using a boomerang so that they could hit all the enemies at once, which is very helpful. I got Yangus using an axe. And
Yangus with the yaks.
Yeah, the yaks.
The yaks of Yangus. Sorry.
And so I've got you're fine.
Man.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It's
Like,
a powerful name. Yangus. Woo.
It starts like you're gonna say yeet, and it feels very strong coming from that place.
Yeah.
I've got Jessica using whips and also a little bit of magic, which is really nice.
Cool. I love a good whip.
I will say the only part that hasn't aged super well is the way that they treat Jess in this game.
Oh.
Because like in the beginning of the game, she's in like a cool outfit, and they're like, okay, she's going to be in your party now. Here's the boob dress that you get to wear for the rest of the game.
There you go.
Not to mention, when you're leveling up skills, there's always this like secondary skill that you can level up that's sort of related to somebody's class almost. So for hero, I think it's humanity, and it's like a way to sort of affect the game sometimes outside of combat. With Yangus, it's like, no, Yangus is humanity. Heroes is something else. Anyway, point being, there's always this kind of like other skill that you can level up that isn't related to weapons. Jess's, of course, her skill that she can level up.
Oh, I don't even.
Is her sex appeal.
Is it really?
It's literally the skill.
Oh, no, dude.
It's awful. David, it's terrible.
Why?
It's
Yangus,
so stupid.
I blame you. Raise your humanity level, Yangus, and then this won't happen.
I wish Yangus could raise his sex appeal. Why not Yangus?
Why not? Why not? Why not Yangus? Why not Yangus? Why not?
It's going to be tough not to name this episode Why Not Yangus?
Why not Yangus? It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So anyway, it's not necessarily an issue that somebody has sex appeal in your team, but it's just a bummer that it's the girl that has it.
The girl with the boob dress.
Yes, exactly. Like, come on, dude, does it really have to be this way?
Yeah.
So that's the only part that hasn't aged super well. But anyway, point being, I love it when somebody joins your party. It's always incredible, especially if it's somebody who's like you kind of like have seen before in the game. I think Frog joining your party in Chrono Trigger was like, holy shit, okay, nice. Like, Frog is cool. I'm very into this. Or like anytime somebody in Persona joins your party, it's like monumental.
Yeah.
Because like usually the palaces are structured around somebody figuring out their persona and then suddenly being like, I'm down with the cause.
I'm
cool as fuck
with
every
the
time.
cause. Take down the man.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, I love that part of a usually JRPG, but sometimes just a video game.
Sure.
Do you have something fueling your sense of Podtimism this week, David?
Well, speaking of sex appeal, Chase.
Okay.
Those hot professors.
Oh my God,
in
David.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Whoa.
Aggressively attractive.
Why did they make them so hot this time? They're both
I don't know.
so hot. Like, they both look like they're both professors, so they have a PhD in something, and they both look like they're in their mid-20s. So they're obviously young, smart hotties.
It's wild.
What the F, dude? I can't handle it. It was too much. I was just like, why? I was minding my own business watching this trailer, and then all of a sudden they just hit me with these two.
These supermodels.
These two supermodels. Like, what the heck? You don't need to make me feel so inferior from the get-go, Pokemon. I can't compete with these two.
It's so wild that they're like, look at these cute Pokemon. Do you want Fue Koko? Also, I'm literally the most attractive person in this universe.
Yes.
What the fuck is this?
In our respective universes of these games, we are both the most attractive person.
Yeah, so for anybody who hasn't heard about this, Pokemon's coming out with a new game called Scarlet and Violet, and they dropped a new trailer about this today. And in it, the professors that are like, you're one of your, like, I guess, mentors in this game. There's always a professor in these Pokemon games. And in this one, for whatever reason, they decide to crank it up to 11 and just put like really attractive people as the professors.
Do they just, it's just someone on the dev team just down bad for Spain?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on internally,
like,
but
oh, don't worry, they're Spaniards. I got this. Don't worry, they're super hot.
The beard on the dude is like perfect. It's in
the perfect 5
position.
o'clock shadow.
Yeah, he's got like an incredible undercut. So does the girl, actually. She's got like kind of the shaved sides on her head and like the longer hair over top that's pushed over to one side.
She got some shark teeth on her necklace, so she's a little tough. The guy's got some like futuristic like space suit going on.
Yes.
So he's mysterious.
It's wild. I was shocked about this.
It was honestly the thing that stood out to me the most out of anything in this trailer.
Absolutely.
Was how, like you said, aggressively attractive these people are. It's just like, did they hire just the character artist for Hades for this game? It's just everyone going to be dummy hot.
If they got some of the voice cast to do this, that would be game of the year for me. Voice cast of Hades.
It's just Meg and Hades as both of those as the professors.
She voices both. Oh my god.
Or Meg and Zagreus, I should say.
Yes, yeah. Which is, again, you said this is the thing that stood out the most, which is wild given that there is a pig Pokemon named Lechonk. And I am really into that. Really, really into the pig Pokemon.
Lechonk.
Lechonk. Love that.
Are they? I thought they were they in France or were they in Spain? I thought they were in Spain for this one. Or is it La or Le? Lechonk or Lech?
I think Lechonk. Le.
Is he a starter?
No, I think he is the regional equivalent of Bidoof.
Beautiful.
Really good Pokemon. And so for his presence to be overshadowed by these two people is
I was just
a testament.
It was just because they led with the two hot professors, and I couldn't recover.
I couldn't think about.
I was floored, and like I was just getting myself back up from the floor, wiping the sweat off of my brow, and then I saw Lechonk, and I was filled with bliss. Seeing Lechonk.
They really hit you with the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, everything else is a blur in that in that trailer.
Good trailer though. Looked fun. I'm gonna play that game.
I'll touch this one. I didn't touch Arceus, but I think I'll touch this one.
I think that it looks like they've taken a lot of stuff from Arceus. Or I'm sure these games are in development like at the same time, but a lot of the open world stuff is there, and so I'm hoping this one will be sort of the execution that Arceus promised.
I feel like I'm gonna be a Violet boy for this one. I want the jet engine legendary.
Yeah, I'll get whatever one you don't want. I don't have strong feelings about either one. Would you like to move on to our main thing, David?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back. We had to do a time skip. I had one day.
Yeah, this is 3 houses right now. We time skipped, and through the magic of editing, you are hearing these 2 bits back to back. We're going to do good games here in a second. But the internet last night decided, hey, you know what? That's actually enough Podtimism for David tonight.
Yes, my internet in particular, Cox cable, if you were listening, what the F, guys?
Really blew it.
What's going on? What's going on here? The
provider, internet service provider, was not doing so good last night.
Yes, yeah, the ISP was the true villain of the story last night.
And so, as a result, David has returned to the podcast with a mustache.
David is my old name. I only go by a Derry now.
So another interesting twist is that moments ago he was riffing on Larry the Cable Guy and somehow landed on Derry the podcast dude. So I want Cox to be held personally responsible for both the mustache and the man named Derry.
Derry into the world. Derry the podcast guy's here.
Get it recorded. Get her pod.
Get it podtimismed.
I don't like this fellow, Derry. I don't care for Derry.
I don't like this here fella. Derry.
Okay, so we're doing good games. It's the segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gosh, all the things that we love about them. And I don't know how we arrived on this one. I think we were like, kicking around a bunch of Sega Saturn games to do. And then we realized that setup of said Sega Saturn emulation I just couldn't find my Sega Saturn in the garage. Couldn't dig it up quickly enough.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more difficult than we were anticipating. So we're like, hey, let's just do one of the Genesis games. And so we landed on Light Crusader.
Yeah, you just threw this one out there. I'd never even heard of this game.
So yeah, I've played it a little bit before, and I'll explain like sort of the history of that in a second. It's not history, makes it sound a lot more grandiose. I've played the video game before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I had like heard of this game before, but you said you hadn't played it before.
No, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting game.
It is. We'll do everything else first, but yeah, it's interesting.
Let me do hot stats real quick.
Hot dairy. Dairy the podcast, dude. Hot stats.
So Light Crusader came out October 25th of 1995 for the Sega Genesis. And this company called Treasure made it. Treasure is a game development company that made quite a few games, actually.
What a name for a company, just straight up Treasure.
I know, yeah, Treasure, that's it. I think like some of the Wikipedia articles said like Treasure Games, but as far as like the actual title of the company goes, I think it's just Treasure, which is kind of baller.
I was about to say, that's pretty baller.
They made Gunstar Heroes, a like wildly popular Genesis game.
Yeah.
They also made Sin and Punishment. That was like kind of a cult classic that was released on the N64 Nintendo Switch Online thing. So if you have that, it's worth a play. It's really interesting. They made Ikaruga. They made Gradius 5, the one for PlayStation 2. They also made McDonald's Treasure Land, which...
McDonald's Treasure Land. Did they name it after themselves?
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Treasures McDonald's Treasure Land. Yeah. Yeah, it's a wild game. I watched like a full long play of it yesterday. I just like put it on in the background. I am like chomping at the bit to do a good games about this because it is just bananas.
Was it like free and Happy Meals?
I don't think so. I think it was like a game that you had to pay for.
Whoa, so this was the precursor to Sneak King.
Honestly, yes, but it's pretty good. This is like totally jumping the gun on doing good games. Can I play you just a little bit of the music from McDonald's Treasure Hunter or
Please.
Treasureland?
I would love to. I'd love to hear.
This is McDonald's Treasureland adventure music City. So this is the music for City. And I'm telling you now, this is the most City music I have ever heard.
Oh, damn. That's got a groove to it.
Doesn't it? It's so funky.
That has no right to be this good. That is an earworm. Whoever made this was punching above their weight class. That's for sure.
Real. Just like the deepest, funkiest bass in the background there, turned up to 10.
Damn.
Anyway, point being.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a shocking experience finding that track. The like is like just burned into my brain the past like day or so.
That's a legitimate earworm.
Yes, it was incredible. The music in this game is also quite good. I've got a few songs that I want to pull up, and I think it may just be the case that Treasure might be kind of good at writing like game music.
They're in-house music man.
Let's see. I do have a review of Light Crusader by Jeux Video. I have taken their review, which was originally in French, and I've read it through Google Translate through a bunch of stuff. Through a bunch of languages, actually, not just stuff. And one into the other.
Through some stuff.
Through some stuff. I put it through like a fiber mesh and then
cheesecloth.
Put it into a bottle for a little while, let it ferment, and then pulled it back out to see what the review said after being properly mangled.
Mangled and finagled.
Mangled, finangled, and fermented.
And darrelled.
And dairied. Big Dairy got his hands on this one.
Big Dairy. Oh no.
Big Dairy is actually not his name. Big Dairy is just like the company that represents him. Really trying to keep everything in line.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see. So Jeux Video had to say of Light Crusader. Light Crusader is a big deal in the Mega Drive. He was looking for a hole he had dug under his cane in search of true happiness. Intense. Tasteless. It's a functional game inspired by common tasks. You can hear the epic battle scratching your head a little. With extra permission, mistakes in their name will soon be forgotten, and the depths of the procedure cast aside. 75 out of 100.
The depths of the procedure cast aside.
This is another one of the ones where like I feel like each sentence gives you different tones and imagery, but it sounds good together. It sounds like it's saying something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's clear enough to be evocative, but vague enough to really make your mind wander.
Yeah, just like what is going on in here?
Yeah.
It's good.
That was a solid one.
I liked that one. Hey, could you tell me what the heck Light Crusader is?
Yeah, Light Crusader is a, I guess, isometric action RPG, I guess you could call it.
I think so, yeah.
Based in a medieval setting. So like fairies and goblins and things.
Yeah.
Swords and magic. And you play the great swordsman, David.
Sir David.
I
was very excited about this fact.
I was also excited. I would be more excited now, but I'm Derry now. I only go by Derry.
Yeah, different guy.
I've never seen any Derry representation in a game before. But yeah, swordsman David has been tasked with finding missing townsfolk. Because in the beginning, there's an evil wizard guy who's like, I will show them, I will get my revenge. It's a very basic story. It's pretty much just exposition that starts off right away with just hooded evil man saying, I'm going to get my revenge. And then he goes and does that until David comes along. So
can we just pause on like what David is? Like the whole imagery behind this dude is very wild.
Yeah.
He looks like a dude in his 40s who like decided to become a knight.
He is older. He looks like he should be in like a hair metal band.
Yes, like he should be playing bass in a hair metal band.
Yes, he has very long blonde hair. He has blue eyes, right?
He does have blue eyes, yeah.
Very pale, fair skin. Tall, lanky dude. Walks around in some armor like it's nothing. No problem at all. His
walk animation is bananas. The same with his like just idle animation. My dude is just quirked up at all times.
Like when he's are you saying he's a quirked up white boy?
I think he's goated with the sauce, David. Like it is wild. His walk animation, he is like chest forward, like pumping his arms, like just really moving around the fucking town.
Did you see the animation of him riding the horse in the beginning?
Yes,
that was a little incredible as well. It looked like he was really riding that horse. That horse was along for his ride. That's it.
The horse was a vessel for him galloping through the woods.
Yes, he was galloping through the horse to get there. But so he's a quirked up white boy who goes into a dungeon and battles monsters and solves puzzles and beats the bad guy and saves villagers on the way.
Yeah, I think that's like the main point of the game is that you're just supposed to go find all these missing villagers, right?
There's really just like the one dungeon too, isn't there?
There's more to it, but yes. Yeah. It's like not a huge game, all things considered.
No, it's pretty pequeño, pretty short.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a very bizarre experience like looking at this game because I don't usually think of like isometric games on Genesis. Like I usually think of isometric games as like being RPGs and especially on the PC. So it's very weird to play like an action game that is like just from one perspective the whole time and like all that sort of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I honestly had no idea a game like this was around back then.
Yeah.
A pleasant surprise, honestly.
Cool. Why don't we get into like what was interesting about this? You said you hadn't played it, so I'm interested to see like how this game landed on you.
Yeah. I don't know how well it ages.
Sure, yeah.
Especially coming from Elden Ring, which is a great action RPG, if people didn't already know. But I did like all the magic. The magical abilities were cool.
It's cool as hell.
They give you a lot of different things you can do. There's 4 elements of magic in the game?
I think so, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was nice. I was surprised with how kind of, I don't know if fluid is the right way to describe the controls, but responsive. I felt like they were pretty responsive. Like even the parts that were like platforming, which was difficult.
Hard, yeah.
I didn't feel like it was the controls. I just felt like I wasn't controlling it the right way, or it was just like the perspective was making it difficult to get to places. But I felt like it was easy to get around. And I felt that the hitboxes the hit detection, I guess you should say, was pretty good.
That's true. Yeah, fighting. Whenever you're like in like actual combat, it does feel pretty good. Like you kind of know when you're going to get hit and when you're going to not get hit.
Yeah, you learn pretty quickly. Like I have to get pretty close to these guys to hit them, but you have a good idea of when you're going to get hit and how to hit other people, which I think back then probably was a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
To just intrinsically let the player know. I liked that you could just move anything around if you just run into it. It was an interesting mechanic. And it was funny because you notice this like right away in the beginning in the courtroom where you're just like pushing around like the king and all the knights and everything. And then it becomes a pretty core mechanic to actually solve these puzzles later on. It's like, okay, that's kind of a fun way to just introduce this thing, because just you intrinsically know that as the developer just knew that we were going to push things around and know that we could do that to pretty much most things in the environment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a surprising and interesting addition to the gameplay of just run into something and push it and see what happens.
It does lead to a certain amount of interactivity that was like kind of I don't know if rare is the right word, but like I don't remember a lot of games doing that where like you can kind of just like fuck with anything in the environment.
Yeah, it was engaging. I feel like most games of that era, everything is pretty static. I don't get to be able to push things around. Solve puzzles, and definitely not solve puzzles with that. But I think they did a good job with that.
For sure. I'd played this. I'd mentioned this to you off the recording yesterday, but I'd played this game in like high school with one of my friends, Davis, and it was a really interesting experience because neither of us like knew what this game was at the time. We were both like kind of pleasantly surprised by what it was. We were also like very into like metal music at the time, and so this game was just like right up our alley. Because it's all very like just ridiculous. Like there's a dude with like essentially long metal dude hair running around just like slashing at goblins and shit like that. Like
it's very 80s fantasy.
Yes, no, like swords and sorcery kind of fantasy stuff. And like there was a level of like campiness that I think both of us were so hungry for at the time that this game so easily delivered on. The music especially, I will say, just like feels so like parts of it are so campy and so ridiculous that like we're both just like totally about it. Speaking of which, I would like to point to another song that is like just textbook music. This is the song that plays when you're in the castle, and it is like castle music. I've never heard more castle music in this song.
I feel like you could sample that beginning part.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like a sweet beat with it.
An enjoyer of bass, whoever writes the music for Light Crusader.
You gotta take advantage of that sweet
Genesis bass.
Yeah, that Genesis sound board or whatever you called it.
Textbook treasure or castle music. Really loved that. I also loved the piano music that played. You like go into somebody's house and they're like, hey,
the piano guy.
Would you like? I think so. They're like, hey, would you like to hear me play piano? And this plays. Like truly horrific. It sounds terrible.
And the person's just jamming away at it too,
slamming their piano.
Yeah.
And like you're locked in place for a while. You can't leave while they're doing that.
Yeah. You just have to suffer through it.
It's incredible. This song, okay, hold on. This is like the song that plays when you're in a dungeon. I think this is legitimately a good song. Like I was listening to this and like really, really was into it.
All right.
And I would like to point you to this section. Let me just go back a little bit. I'm starting at 20 seconds. It's just like so driving.
It's definitely very metal.
Yes.
Double bass.
This part too. Like the inclusion of like just the single, everything drops and it's just the melody, and there's like essentially a snare in the background doing like a break beat, and then just the layered on harmony on top of that. Davis and I were really into this band called Protest the Hero in high school, and like I've been constantly kind of looking around for like what part of their songs this sounds like, and the best I can do is this part in Blindfolds Aside by Protest the Hero. There's like this bridge. I'm starting at 2:26.
Oh yeah,
it's the same kind of thing where like all the background parts drop and it's just the snare guitars. Anyway, I was way into the music in this game.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that. That checks out.
It all kind of sounds like prog rock to me, and it did at the time too. Of like, again, I was just like so into that and thought this game was like the business. So anyway, point being, returning to it now was interesting because obviously my taste is not exactly the same, and like my interest in like just a campy video game doesn't take me quite as far as it did, especially because like I've played it before. I think the novelty of like this game being like the first time I played it, I was like, that's really interesting and novel. But this time I'm like, well, I know that David's gonna do like his pimp walk throughout the whole game.
Pimp walk.
And so like it wasn't quite as novel. But point being, I still thought that the dungeon design was like genuinely pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like it would have been that out of place in like a Zelda game or something like that. A lot of like sort of having to figure out the layout of the dungeon and like just kind of mess around with like, okay, what does this switch do? Okay, that unlocked a door over here. This then gives me a key to go over here, and I have to do like a block puzzle where I'm pushing shit around and figuring out like what to do. So I thought all of that was like really well done. So that part of it definitely held up. I think the parts that are still sort of like challenging are like it's very much a Genesis game, and that like I don't really know what to do most of the time. It took me fucking forever to find that first dungeon.
Yeah,
you have to go to a cemetery and push a headstone. That's how like you start the first dungeon.
That took a while for me to figure out.
I wandered between the cemetery and the town like 2 or 3 times, being like, there must be somebody I just didn't talk to.
I talked to a lot of cows personally.
Yes, seeing which cow would speak English.
Do you know where I should go?
Yeah, so I think like that it's common in so many games of this era that like you just don't really know what's going on. But it is sort of challenging to come back because I think it's an interesting comparison that you made of Elden Ring, because I think these games are kind of going for similar things. Not only the mechanical sort of like a fantasy RPG, but also the fact that it's like trying to communicate this like adventure in a way that a lot of fantasy in the 80s, like the swords and sorcery stuff, is just trying to communicate this like grand adventure that this hero's going on.
Yeah.
In a way that Elden Ring does really well, right? Because it's so well crafted and so well, like it presents to the player all these like paths forward. And as a result, it feels like you're just sort of like wandering out into the wild. And this game does that too, but there's just so little direction. Like it's like, there's no sites of grace to point you towards the cemetery to know. Like,
sure.
There's
even
something
less
here.
hand holding than Elden Ring. If you want your handheld, play Elden Ring. Don't play like Crusader. That's the way it goes.
So like it's interesting in that way. Like I feel like I usually discounted the kind of games where they give you very little and tell you to go out and have an adventure until Elden Ring showed that like, no, that can still be a really, really good game type. And I mostly mean with like action games, right? Like Oblivion, obviously that's just immediately fun, or like a Skyrim or something. Like it's a very different kind of game where Skyrim just gives you the whole world and says like, you can do whatever. Versus like Crusader, where there is kind of one thing that you need to go do and just figure that out. And so it's been interesting returning to these games where there is a little direction. So because I can kind of appreciate the like sense of adventure a little bit more. But I still wish like you just give me a little bit here, please. Give me something.
Give me a little push, a little nudge. Would be appreciated, so I don't spend time talking to every single person in town.
Yeah.
Although I did like talking to the people in town. It's quirky. It's a quirky game.
It's so bizarre. Yeah, you're right. Like everybody in town is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And, like, did you run into Shrug Shoulder, the man?
Shrug Shoulder? I don't think so.
There's a guy standing in town whose idle animation is him just doing this, like shrugging his shoulders. And he has the greatest dialogue in this game. He says, "Me? I'm just a little fellow." And then says, "They call me Shrug Shoulder." And he just does this a bunch. I love that. I'm just a little fella. Fuck yeah, dude.
That's pretty good. That's awesome.
To be clear, great. He's not a child. He's a man. This is a man saying, I'm just a little guy. I'm just a little guy. Fucking love that.
It's very, this game more than any other, I'm just like, I when I'm playing it, I see where Hollow Knight, or not Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, gets some of its humor from. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, I could see how there are just like weird, quirky things in these games that are just funny.
The people like are not acting like real people at all.
Yeah, and it's just clearly a game.
Yeah. The piano person is hilarious. The person who's like painting in their house is really funny. All the people who own like the bars and all that shit, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It just doesn't take itself very seriously. And like in the way that the people are portrayed, I think it does take itself seriously in like the dungeons are intense. And like when I don't know if you fought the orcs or whatever, but when you kill them, you cut them in half.
Yeah. You cleave them in twain.
It's crazy.
Completely. Yes.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it was a little shocking. I was waiting for them just like flash a couple times and disappear.
Yeah.
But no, it's cut in half completely. It was great.
Straight in half. Yeah, that was nuts. I was not expecting that, but still was like, damn. Yeah, so like it's fun for me to engage in these games that are like not super serious about their like narrative or the characters. Like they're just like, it's a video game, fuck it. Like go in the dungeon, have fun.
Explore, see what's up.
Yeah.
Cut an orc in half.
Cut an orc in half. Cut a dork in half.
Cut a dork in half. Whoa.
Yeah, I thought this game was fun. Like even returning to it now and like, you know, having some of the shine of it that I experienced the last time I played this, like 15 years ago or whatever.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It feels bad, man.
Ooh.
Even like without that, it's still pretty fun. I think it's a really interesting game and like got pretty good reviews at the time. I think people were into this.
Yeah, Joe Video gave it a 75. It's not bad for Joe.
I think it's like the action genre was so like really getting its footing. I feel like if you weren't just a straight like side scroll and beat 'em up, there's like a lot of room to experiment in this era of action games.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so much of it was like everybody was very tied to the side scrolling genre, whether or not it was like a beat 'em up or like a platformer or something like that. And so to like have something that's trying to do something else is really interesting. Because I think this kind of game is not easier, but more straightforward when it's like an RPG and like you can just launch into like a battle system or whatever, rather than like having to try and program like combat on the fucking Sega Genesis. Like that sounds so challenging.
Yeah, that ain't gonna turn out well.
And so like it isn't cool that they were able to succeed in that way. Not in every position, right? Like sometimes you're like, you know, the platforming is not perfect, and I think that's just an issue with the perspective. Like it's very hard to distinguish, like, is that thing higher than me or is it in front of me?
Height was very challenging to determine in this game. Yeah. It definitely caused me to hurt myself a couple times.
Yes, no, just like jumping in a spike pit.
Yeah, that happened quite a few times.
Which I'm really glad that they don't, like, it's not horribly punishing whenever you do that.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a little bit of health off, but, like, there's a lot.
Climb out and go again. You're fine.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt on it.
Or just, like, go to the other side. You don't even have to, like, do the jumping again.
It's true, yeah.
Because they give you a lot of, like, health recovery items. Like, that first dungeon, I really, like, was not worried about it that much. Found a lot of, like, fish and corn in the dungeon, which allowed me to
It's an interesting diet. Interesting diet.
Yeah, no. David's getting jacked on fish and corn.
God, that's how you make the quirk.
What else? What other thoughts do you have about Light Crusader?
I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a memorable game. I think that the core gameplay itself is commendable for the time that it came out. Like I said, I don't think it ages very well in comparison to games nowadays. But I think the thing that ages the best are probably the puzzles and just the dungeon layout.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you can, and I feel like those still shine through. That this was, people really thought about how to craft this game, right?
Yeah.
And it was really just, technical limitations. Like how are you going to deal with a camera perspective in a action game when it's the Genesis, and you just have a D-pad. So yeah, I think they did a good job.
It's always shocking to me that any video game gets made ever. It's always just like an achievement just to have it not just crash immediately.
Fair enough. Yeah, it works.
And so so it is impressive to me that like they were able to make it work as much as they were in 1995. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm into this one.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. It was a good game.
It's a fun little romp.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like. Again, this is a perfect game for the Nintendo Switch Online thing where like you can just kind of pop in and play 30 minutes of it. Like you don't have to go to Blockbuster or rent this one and try and beat it all weekend.
Exactly.
You can just play it for a little bit.
Pop a save state, you're good.
Yeah. Sweet. Do you have anything else to say about Light Crusader?
Don't think so, no.
Cool. Farewell, Sir David.
See ya, Sir David. It's now all dairy.
It's dairy. It's the cable dairy podcast, man.
We're on Twitter.
Yeah, we are.
At Podtimism. Tweet us.
Tweet us.
We're on Gmail.
Yes.
Podtimism@gmail.com.
Yes, there you go. Got it in one.
Email us. We're on TikTok. Podtimism?
Yeah.
Are we still on TikTok?
Listen, active? No. Haven't posted something since October.
We're there.
We've spent more time mentioning that we have one more
since
than
October.
Yeah.
Come on, we can do some dances. We can do some dances together, can't we?
I can at least put Sir David walking around on our TikTok.
There you go. Put the trendy sound of the time on there. Scout out of the week. Thank you,
Scout out of the week,
for the beautiful art. It's great. We love it. And if you really want to help us, you can leave a review.
Yes.
On your podcasting app of choice. You can let someone else know about the pod.
Yeah.
Share the pod love.
Yep.
We love it. And thank you.
And also thank you.
You chose to spend your free time, your time with us.
Yeah.
We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Appreciate having you here. It's a joy to make this thing. So thanks for letting us do that and indulging us in about an hour and some change of talking about video games.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah. We're just shooting the shit. It's great. Chase, do you have any video game wisdom for the week?
Yeah. If you're going out on a great adventure to record a podcast, ensure that your internet service provider is reliable.
Dude's coming.
If there is even a question about if you have another option, because if you don't, Derry the podcastman will show up at your doorstep, mustache on lip. Ready.
He will say, hello, have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Frontier Cable?
I'm here to sell you some bad internet. It's me, Derry.
We only got Cox out here, baby. That's it.
It's so terrible.
Yep.
Maybe you should send in a video from Derry to Cox Internet.
What kind of video? Threatening video?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a threat. Just hey, you made me. Hey, Dad, you made me.
I feel like anything that Derry does is threatening, though.
It is. It does. You will have to be careful with your verbiage. Yeah.
Verbiage.
Derry's aura is very...
A murderous aura.
I was going to say intense, but yeah, murderous is a way you could put that.
The mustache makes me feel dangerous.
Yeah, you've got a wah David sort of energy. So, yeah, just be careful when you're summoning Wah David into your universe.
He's the host of the Fingers.
Whoa, is he the host of the Fingers? That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to go invade Derry.
Derry, host of Fingers.
Host of the Fingers. Hey, come on in. Come on in, Fingers.
Level 200 tarnished.
I've got a plate of charcuterie. Come on in, Fingers. I'm hosting you today.
Come on, baby. Let's go. He's all strength and endurance, and that's it. Nothing else.
No intelligence, no dexterity. He's just a big rock. Rock of a man.
If you respect to have no intelligence, does your character just die? Do they just stop breathing?
I don't know, David. Sometimes I wake up and feel like I live with zero intelligence as a stat. It feels pretty appropriate some days.
That's one of those stats that you want over your head that you can look at and see how it fluctuates day to day.
I don't know if I need access to that information, to be honest.
Your IQ today is...
Bad.
Bad.
You slept like shit, you drank a couple of beers before you went to bed, and you had spicy food at 10 p.m.
Oh.
Intelligence is bad.
You're setting yourself up for failure with that combo.
Absolutely, David. It's one that I am well acquainted with.
Is that what you did yesterday?
Not yesterday, but I will say probably more than I should.
What spicy food are you eating?
I'll put Rach on anything, but usually if I'm ordering from a Thai place or an Indian place, I'll tell them to do the spicy level just under their hottest.
Wow.
Which sometimes, not too bad, not too crazy. Sometimes I lay down and I can feel the stomach acid just enveloping my whole person as the acid reflux comes up.
You like some heat.
I do like some heat, David, but it will hurt me.
Yeah, you did sound old.
Yeah, I was in the process of saying that I sound like the oldest man. I mentioned spicy food and acid reflux and sleeping poorly all in the same 30 seconds.
Dad, are you gonna get up and play the game with me? I can't, son. I had spicy food and the acid reflux is coming for me now.
I had 2 beers last night. I'm feeling terrible.
It was worth it, though.
Go hang out with Derry. He'll take you to the park.
Oh, no.
David, you're Derry.
I'm not Derry. I'm David.
What the fuck?
We've created this other character now.
Trying to separate yourself from your child.
I ain't Derry.
Well.
I'm going to go shave this mustache off.
Hey, listener, I hope you have a really cool week, and we'll see you next week where we're talking about, you guessed it, video games.
Hey.
Hey.
What do you know?
What? Jesus Christ. Okay, goodbye, everybody. Bye.
See ya.